The sky above New Haven was usually a deep purple at sunset. Tonight it burned red, not the gentle red of Proxima Centauri's light, but the angry red of fires and explosions. Susan Miller watched from the window of the colony's main control center. As governor of humanity's first successful colony beyond the solar system, she had led these people for 7 years. New Haven was home to almost 500,000 humans. They had farms, schools, research centers, and dreams of a bright future among the stars. Now all of that was in danger. "Governor, they're broadcasting again," said Olivia Green, the communications officer. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she worked the controls. The main screen flickered to life. The alien that appeared had scaly skin that shimmered, like oil on water. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed yellow. When it spoke, a computer translated its clicks and hisses into English. "Your colony is on Vexari territory. You will surrender or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." The screen went dark. Susan turned to the room full of colony leaders. "Options?" she asked. Jack Wilson, head of colony security, stepped forward. He was a tall man with a calm voice that people trusted. "Our defenses can't stop them. We counted over 40 ships in orbit. We have 3 small defense platforms and about 200 security personnel." Ryan Clark, the lead engineer, raised his hand. "The deep mines might work as shelters. They're reinforced against storms. They could protect some of our people." Susan nodded. "And communications?" Olivia looked up from her station. "The aliens destroyed our main relay, but the quantum entanglement communicator is still working. We can send 1 message to Earth that will arrive instantly." "1 message," Susan repeated. She walked to the large map of the colony displayed on the wall. New Haven was spread across a valley with mountains to the east. It was beautiful. It was home. "We need to buy time and save as many lives as possible." Outside, another explosion shook the building. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're not waiting for the hour to be up," Jack said. "They're already attacking the outer farms." Susan made her decision. "Jack, get your security teams to lead people to the mines. Ryan, make sure the shelters are ready and stocked with supplies. Olivia, send this message to Earth. New Haven under attack by alien force calling themselves the Vexari. Colony defenses overwhelmed. Requesting immediate military assistance. Sending all data on enemy ships and weapons. Will resist as long as possible." As her team rushed to follow orders, Susan looked back at the burning sky. Humanity had reached for the stars thinking they were alone. They were wrong. And now they would have to fight for their place in the galaxy. The mines were dark and cold, but they were safe. 2 days had passed since the attack began. Susan walked through the crowded tunnels, checking on her people. Children huddled with parents. Doctors treated the wounded with limited supplies. Engineers worked to keep air flowing and water clean. "Governor," Jack called, waving her over to a small side tunnel where they had set up a command post. Maps and makeshift communications equipment covered the tables. "We have news from the surface." Susan followed him into the tunnel. "Tell me." "The Vexari have landed troops. They're setting up bases in our main buildings. But here's the strange thing. They all wear full environmental suits. Dr. Beth Mason thinks our air might be toxic to them." This was the first good news in days. "So they need the suits to survive here?" "Yes. And their suits can be damaged." Jack pointed to a crude drawing of an alien soldier. "They're tough but not invincible." Next to Jack stood Peter Adams, a farmer, whose land had been one of the first hit. His face was dirty, but his eyes were full of determination. "We can fight back," he said. "We know this planet. They don't." Susan thought about it. They had no way of knowing if or when Earth would send help. Even at the fastest speeds, ships from Earth would take weeks to reach New Haven. They needed to survive until then. "What do you propose?" she asked. Peter leaned over the map. "We still have the farming equipment, tractors, cutting tools, some explosives for clearing land. Not weapons, but they can work like weapons. And we know all the tunnels and caves. The aliens don't," Jack nodded. We have about 50 security officers with standard weapons. If we organize the farmers, miners, and anyone else willing to fight, we can make the Vexari regret landing here. Susan finished his thought. Organize it. But remember, our priority is keeping our people alive. No unnecessary risks. As they talked, Olivia rushed into the tunnel. Governor, we're receiving a transmission. It's weak, but it's from Earth. Susan hurried to the communication station. Through static and interference, a voice came through. New Haven, this is Admiral Karen Peters of the United Earth Defense Force. Your message was received. Hold on. We are coming. Repeat. We are coming with everything we have. Hope spread across Susan's face. How long, Admiral? The advance fleet will reach you in 17 days. The main fleet is being assembled now. New Haven, you are not alone. The entire human race stands with you. Just stay alive. As the transmission ended, Susan looked at the faces around her. Fear was still there, but now there was also hope and determination. 17 days, she said. We need to survive for 17 days. Then we show the Vexari what happens when you attack humans. The resistance began that night. Small groups slipped out of the mines using hidden exits. They moved through the darkness, guided by colonists who had spent years exploring the planet. Pat Lopez, a mining foreman, led one group to the colony's main power plant. The aliens had guards posted, but they didn't know about the maintenance, tunnels that ran beneath the building. Remember, Pat whispered to his team, hit fast and get out. We want to damage their equipment, not fight them directly. They placed homemade explosives at key points, then retreated to a safe distance. When the explosives went off, the night lit up. The Vexari soldiers ran in confusion, their alien voices making strange sounds through their suit speakers. Across the colony, other teams struck at the same time. Farm equipment stores, communication relays taken over by the aliens, landed ships. All became targets. In the command center, the Vexari had set up in the colony's main building. The alien commander received reports of the attacks. It had not expected such resistance. These humans were supposed to be weak, easy to remove from this valuable planet. The commander made a decision. It would send a message to the Vexari fleet. More ships would be needed to crush these humans completely. It did not know that Susan Miller's message had already reached Earth. It did not know that in response, humanity was gathering the largest fleet ever assembled. The Vexari had attacked one human colony. Earth was responding with 700,000 warships, and this was just the beginning. Admiral Karen Peters stood at the main window of Earth's orbital command center. Below her, the blue planet spun peacefully. But the space around Earth was anything but peaceful. Ships moved in all directions, like ants disturbed from their nest. Update, she said to the room full of officers. Commander Alan Scott stepped forward. His uniform was wrinkled from 3 days without sleep. The advance fleet is ready. 50 of our fastest ships, fully armed. They can leave within the hour. Karen nodded. And the main response? We've activated every military vessel in the solar system. That gives us about 150,000 warships. The Martian Republic is sending their entire fleet, another 50,000. We're also converting civilian ships, mining vessels, transport ships, even luxury cruisers. With weapons added, they become effective fighting ships. How many total? Alan checked his tablet. Current count is 687,432 ships. We'll pass 700,000 by tomorrow. Karen turned to look at Earth again. In all human history, no fleet this size had ever been assembled, not even close. The Vexari had attacked one colony. Earth would respond with a force that would show them, and any other aliens watching, that humanity was not to be underestimated. The advance fleet leaves in 1 hour, she said. I'm going with them. President Samantha Turner faced the cameras. In the United Nations Assembly Hall, leaders from every nation on Earth were present. This was the most important speech of her life, perhaps the most important speech in human history. People of Earth, she began. 7 days ago, our colony on New Haven was attacked by an alien species calling themselves the Vexari. Men, women, and children, our brothers and sisters, are fighting for survival right now, light years away, from home. She paused, letting the words sink in. For centuries, we wondered if we were alone in the universe. We sent messages to the stars. We hoped for peaceful contact. Instead, we got this unprovoked attack. On screens behind her, images appeared showing the New Haven colony before the attack. Its farms, schools, and homes. Then came the limited footage transmitted during the attack. Fires, explosions, and alien ships in the sky. The Vexari thought, they could take our colony easily. They thought humans would be weak. They were wrong. The people of New Haven continue to resist. And now we will show the Vexari, and any other hostile species watching, what happens when you attack humanity. Samantha's voice grew stronger. Every nation on Earth has set aside old conflicts. Every colony in our solar system has pledged support. We are building the largest fleet in human history, 700,000 ships, to defend New Haven and show the galaxy that humanity stands united. The assembly hall erupted in applause and cheers. Around the world, billions watched the broadcast. In shipyards, from Earth to the asteroid belt, workers building and modifying ships cheered too. Humanity was going to war. The advance fleet jumped through space faster than any human ships had ever traveled before. Normal safety protocols were ignored. The engines ran hot, pushing the limits of human technology. Karen Peters stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, the fleet's flagship. Beyond the view screen, stars stretched into lines as the ship moved, at incredible speed. Time to New Haven, she asked. 10 days, Admiral, the navigation officer answered. We're pushing the engines beyond recommended limits. Any faster and they might fail completely. Keep this speed, Karen ordered. New Haven has already been under attack for 10 days. Every hour counts. She turned to her second-in-command. What's the status of New Haven's resistance? We're still receiving quantum communications, he said. Brief messages to conserve power. Governor Miller reports that they've organized into small fighting groups. They're using the planet's tunnel, systems to move around and attack Vexari positions. Casualties? High. The Vexari are searching for their underground shelters. They've found and destroyed 2 of them. Karen's face hardened. And the Vexari fleet? Quantum scans show 43 ships in orbit around New Haven. But there's something else. They've sent messages to their homeworld. We believe reinforcements are coming. Then we need to arrive before those reinforcements. The main fleet will be 14 days behind us. We need to establish a defensive position and hold until they arrive. Karen walked to a display showing New Haven's star system. 50 ships against 43 should give them an advantage, but they knew nothing about Vexari weapons or tactics. They would be fighting in unknown territory against an unknown enemy. The odds weren't good, but they had no choice. On New Haven, the fighting grew more intense each day. The colonists had formed resistance groups, each with about 20 members. They named themselves after Earth animals: bears, wolves, eagles, lions. Susan Miller and Jack Wilson led the command group from a hidden cave deep in the mountains. They had set up equipment saved from the colony's buildings. A holographic map showed the positions of both human fighters and alien troops. The Bears group destroyed another Vexari supply depot, Jack reported. The aliens are getting angry. They're searching the mountains more carefully now. Susan studied the map. We need to change our pattern. Tell all groups to move deeper into the cave systems. We'll attack less often, but make each attack count more. Olivia Green entered the command cave. Governor, we just received a new message from Earth. The advance fleet will arrive in 3 days. Hope spread through the room. They had been fighting for 2 weeks. People were tired, hungry, and scared. But they had survived. Help was coming. 3 days, Susan said. We need to prepare. When the fleet arrives, the Vexari will be distracted. That's when we strike hard. Outside the caves, in what used to be the colony's main square, the Vexari commander was growing frustrated. These humans were more troublesome than expected. Its soldiers were constantly attacked by small groups that disappeared into the ground. Equipment was damaged. Supplies were destroyed. The commander had sent for reinforcements, but they would not arrive for 10 more days. And now the long-range sensors had detected something alarming. Human ships approaching fast. The Vexari commander called its ship captains together. They would face these human ships and destroy them. Then they would find and crush the colony's resistance fighters. This planet would belong to the Vexari Dominion. Neither side knew what was coming. The first true battle between humans and aliens was about to begin. And far behind the advance fleet, the main Earth response, 700,000 warships, continued to gather. The greatest space battle in human history was only days away. The first battle between humans and the Vexari began at dawn, New Haven time. The colony's people watched from their mountain hideouts as flashes of light filled the sky. Each flash meant a ship had fired or been hit. The light show was both beautiful and terrifying. In the command cave, Susan Miller and her team gathered around their last working long-range scanner. The screen showed dots of light moving in complex patterns. "Which ones are ours?" asked Peter Adams, one of the resistance leaders. Olivia Green pointed to a group of dots entering from the edge of the screen. "These 50 ships are the advance fleet from Earth. The Vexari have 43 ships in orbit." They watched as the two groups of dots moved toward each other. Then the dots began to blink out, one by one. "What's happening?" Susan asked. "Are we winning?" Jack Wilson shook his head. "We can't tell from here. All we know is that ships are being destroyed on both sides." Suddenly, their communication system crackled to life. A woman's voice came through. "New Haven Colony, this is Admiral Karen Peters of the Earth Defense Force. We have engaged the enemy fleet. We need your help." Susan grabbed the microphone. "This is Governor Miller. What can we do?" "The Vexari have ground-based weapons targeting our ships," Karen explained. "They're positioned near your main settlement. If your resistance fighters can disable those weapons, we can gain the advantage up here." Susan looked at Jack. He nodded. "We can do it." "We'll attack the weapons," Susan told Karen. "Give us 3 hours to organize." 3 hours, Karen confirmed. "Be careful, Governor. We didn't come all this way to lose more people." As the communication ended, Susan turned to her team. "We need our best fighters. This will be dangerous, but it's our chance to help Earth's fleet." Jack stood up. "I'll lead the attack team." "And I'll go with you," Susan said. Everyone looked surprised. "I won't. Ask others to take risks I won't take myself. Besides, I know the colony center better than anyone." 3 hours later, 5 teams of resistance fighters moved through the tunnels toward the colony center. They carried explosive devices made from mining equipment. Each team had a clear target, one of the 5 anti-space weapons the Vexari had set up. Susan and Jack led the main team. They emerged from a tunnel in what used to be the colony's main food storage area. Through a broken window they could see their target, a large alien weapon pointing up at the sky. It fired every few minutes, sending bright green energy bolts into space. 6 guards, Jack whispered, counting the Vexari soldiers around the weapon. "We need to take them out quietly." Susan nodded. "Remember, aim for their environmental suits. One breach and our air becomes their poison." The team of 10 humans spread out, moving from shadow to shadow. They had learned much about fighting the Vexari over the past weeks. The aliens were stronger, but humans were more adaptable and knew the terrain. Jack gave the signal. All at once, the humans attacked. They used small crossbows made in the caves, simple but effective weapons that could pierce the Vexari suits. 4 aliens went down immediately, their suits breached. The remaining 2 fired back, their weapons burning holes in the walls. 1 human fell, then another, but it was too late for the Vexari. Jack's crossbow bolt hit the last alien guard in the faceplate. As air hissed out of the broken suit, the alien collapsed. "Place the explosives," Susan ordered. 2 team members rushed forward and attached their homemade bombs to the base of the alien weapon. "We have 5 minutes before it blows," one of them reported. "Back to the tunnels," Susan said. As they retreated, she used her radio to check on the other teams. "Team 2, status? Explosives planted. Returning to base. Team 3? Heavy resistance. We lost Johnson and Ellis, but the explosives are set. Team 4? All done. No casualties. Team 5? There was no answer from Team 5. Susan tried. Again. Team 5, report. Jack touched her arm and pointed to the sky. A massive explosion lit up the night as one of the Vexari ships broke apart. Team 5 must have succeeded. That ship wouldn't have been hit if their weapon was still working. Susan nodded grimly. The human resistance was paying a high price, but they were fighting back. Just then the weapon they had sabotaged exploded. The shockwave knocked them off their feet. As they got up, they saw the weapon was nothing but twisted metal. 4 weapons down, 1 to go, Jack said. Susan checked her watch. The last one should blow in 2 minutes. They waited, counting the seconds. When 2 minutes passed and no explosion came, Susan's heart sank. Something went wrong with Team 3. Jack looked at the sky where the battle raged. Without that last weapon down, our fleet is still in danger. Susan made a quick decision. Take our team back to base. I'm going to check on Team 3. Governor, that's too dangerous. We need all 5 weapons down. I know another way to reach that position. Before Jack could argue, Susan was moving down a side tunnel. She ran through the dark passages she knew so well, emerging near the colony's power plant. The 5th weapon was on top of the building. From her position, she could see it still firing into space. Near its base lay the bodies of Team 3. Susan had no explosives left. But she did have knowledge. The power plant had its own emergency protocols. If the main reactor overloaded, the safety system would flood the area with fire-suppressing gas. That gas contained chemicals that might damage the Vexari suits. She slipped into the power plant through a maintenance door. The Vexari had guards inside, but they were focused on the main entrances. Susan made her way to the control room, using service passages the aliens didn't know about. The control panel was still working. Susan quickly overrode the safety protocols and set the reactor to simulate an overload. Warning alarms began to sound. The Vexari guards looked around in confusion as red lights flashed. Susan hid as the emergency system activated. Gas poured from ceiling vents, filling the building. Through the control room window, she could see the gas reaching the roof where the weapon was positioned. The Vexari soldiers on the roof began to panic as the gas touched their suits. The material began to dissolve. As the aliens tried to escape, their damaged suits let in New Haven's oxygen-rich air. One by one, they fell. Those hot weapons stopped firing. In the sky above, the battle shifted. Without the ground-based weapons, Earth's advance fleet began to gain the advantage. Susan smiled as she watched another Vexari ship explode. The battle wasn't over, but now humans had a fighting chance. And in 7 more days, the main fleet would arrive, 700,000 warships representing the full might of humanity. The Vexari were about to learn a very costly lesson. 7 days after the first battle, Admiral Karen Peters stood on the bridge of her damaged flagship. The UES Defender had survived, but just barely. Of the 50 ships in the advance fleet, only 32 remained. They had destroyed 39 Vexari vessels, but the cost had been high. Admiral, we're detecting new signals at the edge of the system, reported the sensor officer. Karen tensed. If these were Vexari reinforcements, the advance fleet wouldn't survive another battle. They had been fighting for a week, pushing back the remaining Vexari ships just enough to create a safe zone around New Haven. Put it on screen, she ordered. The large display at the front of the bridge lit up. At first, there were just a few dots of light at the edge of the sensor range. Then more appeared, and more. Soon the entire screen was filled with approaching ships. Karen held her breath. Then the identification signals came through and she let out a long sigh of relief. It's the main fleet, she said. Earth has arrived. The bridge crew cheered. Outside the viewports, the first ships of Earth's main fleet began to appear. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. They kept coming, filling the space around New Haven with the largest gathering of human vessels ever assembled. Karen opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Peters to Earth Fleet Command. Welcome to New Haven. The voice that replied belonged to Fleet Marshal Bill Gardner, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's combined space forces. Good to see you, Admiral. Looks like you've been busy. We've held the line, sir, but we've taken heavy losses. Well, the cavalry has arrived. and we brought every ship we could find. Karen looked at the tactical display. The dots representing human ships continued to appear. 700,000 ships, just as promised. The sight was almost too much to comprehend. "What's the status of the colony?" Gardner asked. "Governor Miller and the colonists have been incredible. They've been fighting a guerrilla war against the Vixari ground forces. Without them, we wouldn't have survived this long. Then let's finish this and give them their home back." On the surface of New Haven, Susan Miller watched the sky fill with ships. From her vantage point on a mountain ridge, it looked like the stars themselves were moving. The Earth fleet was so vast, it blocked out parts of the night sky. Jack Wilson stood beside her using binoculars to watch the Vexari ground forces. "They're panicking," he reported. "They can see what's happening in orbit." Susan felt a wave of emotion. 3 weeks ago, the Vexari had attacked without warning. They had expected an easy victory against a small human colony. Instead, they had awoken the full might of humanity. "Admiral Peters is requesting a meeting," Olivia said, approaching with a communication device. "They want to coordinate the ground attack with the orbital bombardment." Susan took the device. "This is Governor Miller." "Governor, we're ready to begin operations to retake the colony," Karen said. "But we need your people to mark safe zones where civilians are sheltered." "We can do that. We've mapped all our hideouts and shelters." "Good. We'll beam down a team to your location in 1 hour. Together we'll plan the final attack." After the call ended, Susan gathered her team. "This is it," she told them. "The moment we take back our home." Cheers erupted from the tired fighters. After weeks of hiding and hit-and-run attacks, they would finally fight alongside Earth's military forces. In space, the remaining 4 Vexari ships tried to escape. They were surrounded by thousands of human vessels, ranging from massive battleships to small, fast attack craft. There was no hope of victory. On the bridge of the UES Avenger, Fleet Marshal Gardner watched the Vexari ships attempt to flee. "Disable their engines, but try to take one intact," he ordered. "We need prisoners." Precision weapons fire from a dozen human ships struck the Vexari vessels. 3 exploded as their engines overloaded. The 4th, damaged but not destroyed, drifted in space. "We have them, sir," reported a weapons officer. Gardner nodded. "Prepare boarding teams. Tell them to secure the ship and capture the crew alive, if possible." As the boarding operation began, Gardner turned to Admiral Peters, who had transferred to the Avenger for the final battle. "Now for the ground forces." Karen pointed to a display showing New Haven's surface. "The main Vexari base is here in what used to be the colony's central plaza. They have about 500 troops. Governor Miller's resistance fighters have them surrounded, but can't attack directly." "Then we'll help them," Gardner said. "Prepare the dropships. I want 3,000 Marines on the ground within the hour." The battle for New Haven's surface began at noon. Earth's dropships descended through the atmosphere, landing in a ring around the colony center. Marines in power armor rushed out, joining forces with the colony's resistance fighters. Susan Miller and Jack Wilson led a team guiding the Marines through the colony's back streets and tunnels. They had lived on this world for years. Every building, every street, every hidden path was familiar to them. The Vexari fought hard, but they were outnumbered and surrounded. Their environmental suits necessary for them to survive in New Haven's atmosphere limited their mobility. The humans, fighting for their home, showed no mercy. By sunset, it was over. The last group of Vexari soldiers surrendered when Marines breached their command center. The alien commander, its suit damaged and leaking, was taken prisoner. Susan Miller walked through the ruins of her colony. Buildings were burned and broken. Farms were destroyed. It would take years to rebuild everything. But they had won. New Haven was human again. She found Admiral Peters in the colony's main square, where Earth's flag now flew beside New Haven's own banner. "Thank you," Susan said simply. "Without Earth's response, we would have been lost." Karen shook her head. "You held out for weeks against an alien invasion. The thanks goes to you and your people, Governor." A Marine approached them. Admiral, Fleet Marshal Gardner requests your presence on the command ship. We've interrogated the Vexari prisoners. They've given us coordinates for their homeworld. Susan and Karen exchanged looks. The Vexari had started this war by attacking one human colony. Now humanity had the location of their homeworld and a fleet of 700,000 ships, ready for orders. What happens next? Susan asked. Karen's expression was grim. That's for Earth's leaders to decide. But one thing is certain. The galaxy now knows that humanity is not to be trifled with. Above them, the massive human fleet filled the sky, a testament to humanity's resolve and power. The Vexari had made a terrible mistake, and now they would face the consequences. 1 month after the battle for New Haven, Susan Miller stood in the rebuilt Colony Plaza. Around her, construction crews worked to repair damaged buildings. New homes rose where destroyed ones had stood. The sounds of machinery and human voices filled the air, sounds of life returning. Earth had sent thousands of workers and massive amounts of supplies to help rebuild. The colony that had almost been lost was now stronger than ever, and it was not alone. Earth ships patrolled the skies, and a permanent military base had been established on New Haven's moon. Jack Wilson approached, wearing a new uniform with Earth Defense Force insignia. After the battle, many colony security officers had joined Earth's military. The memorial is ready, he said quietly. Susan nodded. Let's go. They walked together to a new park at the edge of the colony. There, a simple stone wall had been built. On it were carved the names of all who had died defending New Haven. 437 names. Susan touched the cool stone, tracing her fingers over the names of people she had known and led. They didn't die for nothing, Jack said. Because of them, we're still here. And the Vexari learned a hard lesson. That was true. After the battle, Earth's leaders had faced a difficult decision. Some wanted to take the fight to the Vexari homeworld, to use the massive fleet to strike back. Others argued for peace. In the end, they chose a middle path. Half of the Great Fleet, 350,000 ships, had journeyed to the edge of Vexari space. They didn't attack, but simply waited there, a silent message that humanity could strike if provoked again. The Vexari, their fleet nearly destroyed at New Haven, had quickly agreed to peace talks. A treaty was signed. The Vexari acknowledged human control of New Haven and several nearby star systems. They promised no further attacks on human settlements. Admiral Peters is arriving today, Jack said, checking his watch. Her ship will land in an hour. Susan smiled. Karen Peters had become a close friend during the battle and its aftermath. Now she was bringing important news from Earth. The UES Defender landed smoothly at New Haven's rebuilt spaceport. It looked different now, repaired and upgraded after the battle damage. Admiral Karen Peters walked down the ramp, accompanied by several Earth officials. Susan Miller waited to greet them. The two women embraced warmly. "Welcome back to New Haven," Susan said. "The place looks a bit different from your last visit." Karen looked around at the busy spaceport. Amazing what humans can accomplish when we work together. They walked to a waiting transport vehicle. As they drove through the colony, Karen admired the progress. "It's only been a month, and you've already rebuilt half the colony," she said. Susan nodded. "Earth's help made all the difference, but I hear you've brought news?" "Yes, and it's big. The United Earth government has made a decision about New Haven and future colonies." They arrived at the colony's administration building, a new structure built to replace the one destroyed in the fighting. Inside, they gathered in a conference room with Jack Wilson and other colony leaders. Karen activated a holographic display, showing a map of nearby star systems. After the Vexari attack, Earth realized we need to change our approach to space exploration and colonization. One colony alone is vulnerable, but many colonies, working together and protected by a strong fleet, would be much harder to attack. She touched the display and dozens of points of light appeared on the map. This is the new expansion plan. 20 new colonies in the next 5 years, each one with strong defenses from the beginning. New Haven will be the regional center, the capital of what we're calling the Proxima Sector. The colony leaders murmured in surprise and excitement. Their small colony would become the center of a network of human settlements. There's more, Karen continued. The treaty with the Vexari opened diplomatic channels with other alien civilizations. We've learned we're not alone in facing Vexari aggression. 3 other spacefaring species have reached out to form alliances with humanity. She adjusted the display to show images of 3 different alien species. None looked like the Vexari. One resembled tall, slender humans with blue skin. Another looked like large insects with complex eye patterns. The third appeared to be made of something like living crystal. They call themselves the Ardari, the Zenith Collective, and the Crystalline Consciousness, Karen explained. Each has technology we don't, and each is impressed by our response to the Vexari attack. They want to trade and share knowledge. Susan leaned forward, studying the alien images. So our first contact with aliens was war, but now we have potential friends? Exactly. Sometimes you need to show strength before others will respect you enough to offer friendship. Jack pointed to the map. What about the Vexari? Are they honoring the treaty? Karen's expression grew serious. So far, yes. Our fleet remains at the edge of their territory as a reminder. But intelligence suggests they're facing internal problems. Some Vexari factions are questioning why their leaders attacked us in the first place. Later that day, Susan stood with Karen on a hillside overlooking the colony. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and purple. Construction lights were coming on across New Haven as work continued into the evening. I still can't believe how much has changed, Susan said. 2 months ago, we were just a small colony trying to survive on our own. Then we were fighting for our lives against aliens. Now we're going to be the capital of a sector and meeting new alien species. Karen smiled. The Vexari thought attacking one human colony would be easy. They never expected Earth to respond with 700,000 warships. They underestimated humanity's greatest strength. We stand together. Below them, a new building was taking shape. The future diplomatic center where representatives from Earth and alien worlds would meet. The future looked very different from what anyone had imagined before the attack. What happens next? Susan asked. We grow, we learn, we explore, Karen replied. And if anyone else makes the mistake the Vexari made, they'll find the same response, only stronger. As the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, both women knew that humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. The attack on New Haven had been meant to remove humans from the stars. Instead, it had launched humanity's greatest period of expansion and discovery. The Vexari had attacked one human colony. Earth had responded with 700,000 warships. And now, the stars themselves were opening to humanity in ways no one could have predicted.